Hello and welcome to the I Believe in Marriage YouTube channel. Y'all, we are still brand new. We just started our YouTube channel, and so I'm so happy that you are watching this video. You know what I need you to do? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Let me tell you, I am trying to get a customized link, and I have to have a certain number of people subscribe. So can you help your girl out? I am super excited about using this channel to help you and your spouse win in your marriage. That is our theme this year, helping you win in your marriage. We are in the middle of a brand new series, Building Your Marriage as a Winning Team. Last week we did part 1, where we talked about what does it even mean to be a team in your marriage. This is part 2 of what I believe is going to be a 4-part series. We'll see as we keep going. Now make sure you share this video on your platform. Send it to your hubby, send it to your wife, send it to your best friend. Listen, we're going to all win in our marriage this year. All right, let's dive into part 2 of building your marriage as a winning team. Okay, so what I want to do in this part of our conversation is I want to share with you 5 habits of a losing team. Today, we're talking about 5 habits of a losing team. Now, let me go ahead and give you a sneak peek to next week. Next week, we're going to talk about, I believe, 6 habits of a winning team. But first, I want you to kind of see what you might be doing wrong. And then next week, I'm going to tell you what to do right. As I'm going over these 5 habits of a losing team, can I go ahead and let you know this? All of us have some area in our marriage that we can improve. So as you're listening to these 5 habits, I want you to pay attention to whether or not you and your spouse are demonstrating any of these habits. And if you are, it's all good. We're just going to fix it, okay? So here are the 5 habits. Habit number 1. Losing teams allow one loss to define the entire season. In other words, a couple that has had a rough time, maybe they've had a rough couple of months, maybe they've even had a rough couple of years, but they make a decision subconsciously that this tough season is what it's going to be all the time. So losing teams allow one loss to define the entire season, and that's just not the truth. Listen, one season doesn't dictate the destiny of the entire franchise. Now let me tell you this. I kind of pretend to be a sports chick, but if you consider cheerleading a sport, then I'm officially a sports chick. We know gymnastics is a sport, so I'm a sports chick. But we can, of course, think about football. We can think about basketball. We can think about baseball. If you allow one loss in a whole season, or even one whole season, to dictate the destiny of the entire franchise, you're in trouble. But often we do that in our marriages. And so I want you to think about the fact that you and your spouse may have had a tough time, but that doesn't mean that's what it's going to be from now on. That is having a losing mindset. So as you're listening to these habits, I want you to ask yourself, have I already written our marriage off because we've had a tough season? All right, here is habit number 2. Losing teams stop practicing or preparing for the different scenarios they may face. Now, let me help you with this. Did you know that most of us who are married, we are dealing with the same issue over and over again? When we are finding ourselves arguing about something, often it's the same issue that shows up in different situations. It's the same undercurrent. Keep rocking with me, and I'm going to really help you understand this concept of an undercurrent in your marriage. So habit number 2 is that losing teams stop practicing or preparing for all the different scenarios they may face. Let's think about a basketball team. A basketball team sits and studies their competition. They study the team that they're going to play against at the next game to figure out how they move, what they do. They think about their own strengths, their own weaknesses on their own team. That's what we got to do in our marriages. Most of the time, we know the situations are the triggers that jack us up. You know, every time his mama come in town, y'all have some challenges. You know, every year around tax time, y'all start falling out. You know the different scenarios that keep showing up that create tension for you and your spouse. And so the two of you need to start preparing or practicing for how you're going to deal with those tough situations. So I want you to pause and think about the dichotomy that happens in your own marriage. You know this is happening, but you haven't prepared for it. And I want you to think about those different situations and how you could deal with them better if you deal with them in advance. Losing habit number 3 is that losing teams lose sight of the bigger picture. Losing teams lose sight of the bigger picture. What do I mean by that? Listen, there is a story that God is telling through your marriage. Can we just stop there? I want you to really get that. There is a story that God is telling through your marriage. You and your husband, you and your wife, y'all's unique chemistry, y'all's unique connectivity. Do y'all hear that text is coming out with that, y'all? Your unique chemistry, your unique dynamics. Oh, I just had a little technical issue. Those things, God is telling a story through that. And so what happens is that losing teams lose sight of the bigger picture. There's something bigger going on. But when you lose sight of it and you let the little bitty things begin to destroy your foundation, then you'll forget that there is a legacy that you and your spouse are ordained to leave. And so you and your spouse have to stop and pay attention to remind yourself, what is the bigger picture? Remember, in part 1, we talked about the purpose for which God brought you all together. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Here is losing habit number 4. Losing teams stop listening to their coach. I want you to think of all the greatest sports people that you know. All of them have a coach. Maybe you're not into sports. I want you to think about the performer that you love the most. They have a coach. I want you to think about anybody who has made it big, they have a coach, but losing teams stop listening to their coach. And I'm going to talk about this when I talk about the winning habits. And so when I talk about coach this time, let's look at God as our coach. The people who rock with me in the I Believe in Marriage Network, most of you are faith walkers. You believe in Jesus. Now listen, if you don't believe in Jesus, I want you to think about what your guiding force is or your guiding light. But for those of you who believe in God and who are following the mandates of Scripture, then God is your ultimate coach. And when you and your spouse stop listening to God, stop heeding his instructions, stop paying attention to the way he is telling you to go, then of course your marriage is going to get off track. Just like any player, if the player isn't listening to the coach, if the team isn't following the coach's instructions, they are not going to win the game. And so losing teams stop listening to their coach. And here's the last one. Losing teams stop communicating. Listen. Because of the frustration they are feeling, losing teams stop communicating and they stop connecting with one another. They're just on the court doing their own thing. They're just on the field doing their own thing. They're not paying attention to when they're supposed to be throwing the ball, when they're supposed to be holding it. They're just out there, all individuals doing their own thing. When we stop communicating with one another, we aren't winning. When I stop listening to you, when you stop listening to me, when we stop engaging, when I don't clean my filter to really understand what it is you're saying, then we are going to lose. Winners have to listen to one another, and to win, that requires open and honest communication and feedback. So let's go over that again. And I want you to think about your marriage. And I want you to write this down. I want you to get a journal for our entire year. All of the series I'm going to be bringing to you. Won't you get a journal and just take some notes so that you can look back over it? You and your spouse can look at this video together, pause it, and ask yourself these questions along the way. Listen to the whole thing and discuss it afterwards. So I'm going to go over these 5 habits one more time. And I want you and your spouse, or even if it's just you watching it by yourself, I want you to determine which of these habits do you and your spouse need to work on. Again, number 1, losing teams allow one loss to define their entire season. You're allowing one tough season to dictate the health of your entire marriage. Number 2, losing teams stop practicing or preparing for the different scenarios they're going to face. Y'all, we deal with the same thing over and over again. So get a plan in place. How are you going to handle it when this comes up? Deal with that in advance. Number 3, Losing teams, lose sight of the bigger picture. What is the story that God is wanting to tell through your marriage? Number 4, losing teams, stop listening to their coach. If you are a Bible believer, are you following the word of God for your marriage and how the two of you interact? And then number 5, losing teams, stop communicating with one another. If you're not engaging, if you're not sharing, if you're not creating the opportunity to really have real dialogue, you and your spouse will not be on the road to victory. So I want you guys to take some time to go over those 5 habits. And then next week, we're going to talk about the 6 habits of a winning team. Remember, I have a really cool guide that you can get access to help you and your spouse get on the track to winning in 2020. Just go to ibelieveinmarriage.com/2020win. ibelieveinmarriage.com/2020win to get, or it might be win 2020. I can't remember. Try either one. 2020 win or win 2020. ibelieveinmarriage.com/ and I'll just put it. I'll just put it in the link. All right, guys. So remember to share this on your platform. Send this to the people that you love and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next week.